What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American, here today to react and learn about the top 10 British bands who never cracked America. I am very excited for this today because I myself am a big fan of many British bands and British musicians, but I have to admit, that is only because they have become popular here in America. So today, I want to hear about British bands that are really good, but I've never heard of before because they haven't broken into the American mainstream. These are bands that are really popular in Britain, and I've never got the chance to see or hear before. So for that reason, I'm very, very excited to see this. So, with that being said, let's take a look.
Number 10, Supergrass. For a British...
I was mesmerized there for a second because I've never heard of this band, Supergrass, but I swear I've heard that song that they were just playing. I swear I've heard that song. I don't know where. I didn't even remember it existed until this moment. But that's by Supergrass. Okay, I think that they sound really good already.
British band to successfully cross over into America, it's crucial to capitalise upon the buzz. And for Oxford group Supergrass, well, they failed to expand beyond their native demographic.
Huh. I don't know if that's true. I swear, I don't know what that song they were just singing is. I have no idea. But I know I've heard that before, and it's good. So, I think they kind of, in that sense, I don't know where I heard this song, but they've broken a little bit into the American audience. Although, at the same time, I had no idea who the band was or their name. So, that kind of says that I really didn't know about them, so I guess it is true. Huh. Wow. Yeah, they're good.
With their 1995 debut album, I Should Coco, Supergrass briefly reached the #1 in the UK charts, and actually released 2 more albums by the end of the 90s. By that time, though...
By the 90s? So this is an older band. I mean, that already kind of tells you how out of touch I am with this band. They made this album in the 90s, so this is an older band. But at one point they were like #1 album, like in the UK, I think they said.
Music trends had changed significantly in the US, and well, Supergrass began to drift away, barely cracking the US Top 200 with 2002's Life on Other Planets. Sadly, it all ended with an internal Twitter beef.
Oh no. Wow. This is really cool, like, this video, because it's kind of exposing me to bands and who they are in a way that I otherwise never would have been able to learn about them before. Okay, number 9.
Number 9, Madness.
What?
During the late 70s and early 80s, this band was far more than just a one-hit wonder in the UK. In fact, Madness would even influence the American band that would ultimately become No Doubt.
I know this song. What? So this is by a band named Madness. This is cool because we're actually talking about, like, British bands throughout history. This isn't just, like, modern music, which I really like. So I've never heard of Madness before, but, again, I've heard this song before that they're playing. So it seems like although the band itself never has broken through into America or American mainstream, some of these songs definitely have. Yeah, I know this.
And like Gwen Stefani's versatile group, Madness didn't align themselves with a specific genre, as they blended together a variety of musical styles.
Cool.
With that being said, Madness was, in fact, linked to skinheads in their early days, which perhaps negatively affected larger-scale opportunities.
That'll do it. That'll do it. Yeah, okay. I was gonna say, like, it's interesting how they were... I was, like, confused at the beginning. They're playing trumpets and saxophones and stuff. Very eclectic taste here. Unfortunate to hear about the whole controversy thing, though.
Regardless, the UK band experienced great success during their initial 10-year run, but never once did one of their acclaimed albums crack the US Top 100 charts.
No, I've never heard of them. But I did know that song, the Our House song. It's good.
Must be love, love, love.
Huh.
Number 8, Take That.
Okay.
I guess now it's time.
Okay.
By the mid-90s, the legendary music executive Clive Davis signed this UK boy band to a record deal with Arista. But
What? UK boy band? This is so funny to me. Like, there's boy bands and 90s bands that just existed in the UK that I'm sure are a part of a lot of Brits' childhoods. Like, maybe you remember some of these bands or are still a fan to this day, or remember some of these quote-unquote older songs that are a part of maybe British people's lives, but I've never ever heard of this before.
Take That had already begun to self-destruct.
So come on, get it on.
I like it.
What you're waiting for.
In their prime,
I like it. Maybe I have a soft spot for like 90s music, but I like it.
Gary Barlow stunned critics with his songwriting skills, and a young Robbie Williams displayed his obvious star power. And so, Take That seemed primed for America. Yet Williams quit in 1996 just as the pop scene was about to change in the United States. The group initially
Oh man, what are they called again? They're called Take That. Okay.
formed in the early 90s, and despite 3 well-received albums, Take That just didn't seem to have the right amount of mojo to keep it going, although the core members would later reunite with Williams in 2010.
Wow, I don't know. It would have been very difficult for any boy band to like try to compete with like the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and their popularity in America, so maybe that had something to do with it too. Yeah. It's good.
Number 7, Kasabian.
Oh,
American indie fans have
Okay.
certainly heard of this group from Leicester, despite the fact that Kasabian's lead singer Sergio Pizzorno once noted that he hates indie bands.
even though he is an indie band, he hates indie bands. Kasabian, is this just a one person? Like, is that him? Is that Kasabian? I've never heard of him before.
So that's one thing to consider when thinking about Kasabian's failed American crossover.
This is an interesting style of music. What do you even call this? Indie? Although, don't say that to Kasabian, he would hate that.
In the UK, they reached number 4 on the UK charts with their self-titled 2004 debut, and the next several albums managed to reach number 1. By 2013, however, guitarist Jay Mellor actually left to play with Liam Gallagher, formerly of Oasis, while Tom Meehan cited unfinished business in America around the same time. However, the 2014 album 4813 failed to chart in the US, and maybe Kasabian just wasn't ready for a committed American crossover.
Interesting. These bands are like, for one thing, I just want to be clear, these are really good. Like, the music is, like, I am enjoying these. Supergrass and Madness, although they had songs I'd heard of that are genuinely really good. Take That, the boy band, and now Kasabian, they're all good. I think I like Supergrass and Madness the best so far, but let's keep going. Alright. Yeah.
Number 6,
Yeah.
Happy Mondays.
Happy Mondays. Okay.
Now this Mojoholics is what you call
Okay.
a Manchester band. From 1980 to 1993, Happy Mondays managed to gain quite the following in the UK, certainly with their 1990 album Pills and Thrills and Bellyaches.
I like them already because of their name, Happy Mondays. Yeah, I didn't realize these bands were going to be from like the 80s and 90s and stuff. That's kind of like a fun surprise. Oh.
I had to crucify somebody today.
That sounded familiar. That kind of sounded familiar. Is it possible I've heard that before? Maybe. I don't know.
But considering that a band like New Kids on the Block was big in the United States at the time, well, that's just one reason why the Happy Mondays sound failed to connect with the American mainstream. Even so, this is a band that heavily influenced some of the more notable UK bands of the 90s, such as Oasis and the Stone Roses.
Oh,
Yet
wow.
their sound embodies more of a distinct Euro vibe rather than trendy American hooks.
Yeah, I'm noticing that with quite a bit of this music. It's a little more nuanced, a little more, or a little less in-your-face pop music that I think was really the only way you could thrive in America. Maybe that's even true to this day. Your musical sound has to have mass appeal, and you have to play by certain rules and sounds, and that's not very fun, but it's probably the reality of, like, music. So I think that has to do with why several of these bands never were able to crack America, even though I really do enjoy their music here. Yeah.
Number 5, Stereophonics.
Okay.
Down and I'm wondering why these little black clouds keep walking around.
Yeah.
me.
Ooh. Oh, I like that. Stereophonics. Okay.
From the late 90s to the early 2000s, this Welsh band established a reputation for their killer live shows. However, Stereophonics ultimately dismissed original drummer Stuart Cable in 2003, reportedly because he was more interested in his TV show than the band. Sadly,
no.
Cable would pass away just 7 years later. In their prime, Stereophonics was known as one of the most talented UK bands, releasing 5 #1 albums throughout the 2000s.
I absolutely can see why they were so successful. I've never heard of them, and I'm just getting little snippets of their songs right now, but I really like it. I think this is a really good band.
Yet only one of those, 2001's Just Enough Education to Perform, managed to crack the US Top 200 charts.
So maybe tomorrow
Yeah.
I'll find my way.
Yeah. I mean, it's really good, but I can see why it didn't crack America. It doesn't have that predictable industry sound that you needed to have. But man, I think us Americans really missed out on a lot of amazing, like, British musical talent. Not being able to get exposed to these bands.
Despite the lack of American buzz, Stereophonics continues in their native Wales as one of the
Good.
most highly regarded UK bands of the 21st century.
Yeah, and there's obviously there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you don't need to be popular in the United States to be a successful, beloved band, and all of these bands are a testament to that. Okay.
Number 4,
Okay.
Manic Street Preachers.
Okay. I really love some of these band names. Like, seriously.
Like many overly ambitious rock bands, this Wales group infamously hyped up their 1992 debut album, Generation Terrorists, and, well,
Oh.
failed to crack the top 10 in the UK charts.
Nice. Oh, yes. I love a good melody-driven music. A lot of these songs are not so, like, in-your-face upbeat either. And definitely have, like, this British, I don't know, some of them have, like, this British melancholy kind of feel that you don't get here in America for sure.
In fact, the Manics wouldn't land a #1 until 6 years later. This coming 3 years after the mysterious disappearance of the celebrated songwriter and guitarist, Richie Edwards.
What?
Their music
What? Their guitarist disappeared? Like, just disappeared. They never found out what happened to him? Oh my god.
is pure rock, something that US rock enthusiasts could easily get behind.
Yeah.
Or so it would seem.
Yeah.
But while the Manics became iconic figures overseas, their sound just never translated to American mainstream consumers. Decades after the loss of Edwards, however, the Manics continue to wail.
I'm a little surprised, honestly, because they sound really, really good. I'm a little surprised by a couple of these bands. Some of it I understand why it didn't translate to America, but some of this I'm a bit surprised they didn't do better here, and that I've never ever heard of them.
Number 3, Pulp.
Okay.
By the time of this band's success during the mid-90s Britpop era, they had already been together well over 15 years. And until then, Pulp had never actually landed a gold record, let alone an American hit.
Wow, there's a lot of 90s British bands out there. Like a ton of really good 90s bands I've never ever heard of. Alright. I like it.
But albums like Different Class and This Is Hardcore teased at a potential American crossover, with the latter finding its way to the US charts in 1996.
Oh.
At this time, though,
Really, did it? I've never heard of Pulp before, though.
Reported drug use and internal scuffling shook up the band, and Pulp's final album was ultimately released in the early fall of 2001, peaking at number 6 in the UK charts.
Okay.
For a brief time, this group was on par with the likes of Oasis, but like the Gallaghers, Pulp just couldn't manage to keep the unit together.
Wow. These guys were big in the UK. That's crazy. That's crazy to me, how there can be like top charting bands in the UK that completely go unnoticed in the United States. I think we really need to expand our horizons a little bit, open our ears, especially now, like in this day and age where it's possible. Back in the 90s, I get it, like, especially before the internet and stuff, where you're relying on like radio and CDs and word of mouth. That makes sense to me much more, why a lot of UK bands couldn't make the transition to try to break into the American audience. But nowadays, there's really no excuse for Americans to get more exposure to this. Okay.
Number 2, The Jam.
The Jam.
Fronted by the multi-talented Paul Weller, a man known for his distinct British compositions, this band came, saw and conquered during their decade-long existence. Well, at least in the UK.
I first felt a fist.
What a unique voice, too. Really cool.
And then a kick. I could now smell their breath.
Aesthetically, The Jam preceded punk, and they called it quits just as the new wave took off in the early 80s.
No!
In between, they...
No! Why is that the story of so many of these bands? Like, they find some success, and then they just have trouble staying together and making music, just as, like, a musical boom in their genre is about to happen. That's really unfortunate.
Released 6 acclaimed studio albums, with the last 5 climbing the UK charts. Truth be told, The Jam had somewhat of a steady presence in the US charts during their run, but despite their stylized look and obvious talent, the party ended with the 1982 release, The Gift. And just like that, The Jam was gone before Americans could catch on.
The Jam. Yeah. Never heard of them. It's good. It's good.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
Okay. Swede. Okay. Maximo Park. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. The Water Boys. Oh. Like, I understand this music, some of this music isn't for everyone, but all of this is honestly good stuff.
Number 1, The Stone Roses.
Okay, here we are, number 1 on the list. This has been a great list so far. I'm honestly a little surprised that I've never heard of a single one of these bands on the entire list. We got through all of them now. And I've never heard of the Stone Roses. This is number 1. Is the Stone Roses well known in Britain? Because I don't know anything that they've done. Oh, okay. Okay.
If you're even vaguely familiar with the bravado and attitude of Oasis, well, let's just say the Gallagher brothers were inspired by the Stone Roses.
Oh, Oasis was inspired by this band, not the other way around. But they were inspired by the Stone Roses.
This is a band that once said America doesn't deserve us yet. And while they may have been right, the Stone Roses didn't seem in a hurry to record consistent music after the renowned 1989 debut.
America doesn't deserve us. Maybe that's true. So they didn't put out much music after being successful, is that right? What the heck? What the heck? Okay.
In fact, it took a full 5 years for the Manchester group to drop a second album,
Wow.
and the band folded for good less of 2 years later. Since then, there has always been talks of a reunion, but it just never seems to happen. And so the Stone Roses will forever remain an acclaimed British rock band that failed to live up to their crossover potential.
The Stone Roses. Well, it sounds like they also failed to live up to their own potential, even in the UK. Yeah.
Do you agree?
There we go. That's the end of it. That was really cool, actually. That was really fun. This video is by WatchMojo UK. I gotta give it a like, because I did like that. I liked a lot of these bands. I'm gonna have to go back through this later and write down some of these names, because these are honestly a lot of great sounding music coming out of this, and I'm really curious to look into it some more. I don't know. I can't help but think it's kind of unfortunate that a lot of Americans are never going to get exposed to this. It took me going out of my way to watch this video to even become aware of really, really successful British bands out there. Apparently a lot from the 80s, 90s, 2000s as well, which was cool to kind of learn about that part of British musical history too. So I really, really enjoyed this. So anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts and opinions on these British bands who never quite made it in America, but were really, really great and successful in the UK. Or maybe any other bands that never cracked America that deserve to be on this list. That'd be interesting to hear about too. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Britain and British culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.